All right, guys, you want to help me put together this tier list? So RGB selector units. Here, let's get rid of these not in pool. Let's just get rid of the collab units first. Okay, so that gets rid of the not in the pool. So let's keep this really simple, right? Just like the last one. Let's have a must-haves tier. Let's have a really heckin' strong tier. And let's have a meh collector slash niche tier, right? So this is where, like, you know, the unit's waifu, you want the unit, or you're trying to build something specific and you want to do it, and this is just needs a buff to be relevant tier. Is the RGB selector fully decked out? It is not. It is just an RGB selector, just like you randomly pulled it from your daily summons. Okay, so we're going to start with Abigail. Abigail is one of the better units for a relatively new player to get who is trying to break into RTA. Abigail is an easy ticket to a master skin. I wouldn't say easy, but she is a key for it. She will make a lot of story content a lot easier. Her ability to keep the background unit alive is crazy. Great for Guild Wars. Very, very underestimated, underrated unit for a relatively new player into the late game. Alencia has proven herself pretty strong. I wouldn't go so far as to say she's a must-have, but if you've got young Senya, Alencia is really, really good. Her buffs have made her a great injury unit. Araminta is actually quite strong, but not so strong. I think she's a must-have. The changes to RTA with burns and attack getting all boosted up and red, green, blue getting stronger. Maybe she's going to see more use in RTA, but I just don't think she is all that. Arya is a must-have unit if you're a new player. Arya is key to some of the easiest ways to farm PvE. She is simultaneously the hardest and the easiest unit to gear in the game. I know, the paradox, the duality of Arya. A PvE Arya is easy to gear and will let you solo many Abyss floors, will let you do the easiest one-shot on Wyvern. But when you want to transition her for use in PvP, using her in Guild Wars, using her in RTA, she suddenly has a very, very high build requirement. It's much harder, probably arguably the hardest unit to gear in the game for PvP. But for PvE, so anybody tells you like, oh, don't get Arya, she's hard to gear, they're talking about RTA, all right? They're not talking about Wyvern 13. They're not talking about autoing Abyss 101. They're not talking about for use in Nightmare Arahakan. Oh, not Arahakan, but Carcanus. They're talking about PvP, so she's a good hero to get, an investment hero. I think she's a must-have unit. Arunka needs a buff to be relevant. Balin Sazan needs a buff to be relevant. He only has one place in the game right now, and that is Green Expeditions, and he is replaceable there. And you don't really need an expedition team, let's be real. Basar needs a buff to be relevant. Bihu is Bihu's a strong opener, but he's not so strong I want to recommend him. I'm going to put him in the niche collectors tier. Bihu is, a couple seasons ago, I was running people over with Bihu. Maybe the changes to Arena are going to improve his usages, but right now it's kind of not all that. Bologna is a very strong PvE unit, but that's pretty much it. Just PvE. Brigitte is probably the worst 5-star unit in the game and the most likely to get a Giga buff. So if you're an investment hero and a redhead enthusiast, respect picking Brigitte and hoping for a buff. Surely it's coming. Buff all redheads, Smilegate. Bomb Model Kana is a really, really strong unit for use in PvE, but she's a connection hero. So I would recommend not getting her. Even though she is really strong, you can get her through connections, so why get a second one? Brieg is a must-have unit, but I will caution you that you get him at the end of the Adventurer's Path for free, and although they're retooling all of that, and some people are panicked that if they don't get their Brieg now, that they're not going to be able to get him after the update when they take away Adventurer's Path. Guys, Epic 6 will allow Brieg to be in there, okay? They will have whatever their new player thing is, their new adventurous path thing is. Brieg will be in there. The entire community would riot if they took Brieg away. So trust, he will still be there. So I strongly recommend you do not select Brieg because he's free. Right? I'm not going to bother making a free tier. You guys know better. And if you're watching this in video form, you're hearing me say it. Don't select Brieg. He is a must-have unit, but you get him for free. But people don't listen. You get it free tier. Bomb Model Connie, you get it free. Brieg, you get it free. There. Okay? Because nobody heckin' listens. Fire Cecilia used to be really heckin' strong in RTA, and then she fell down to just kind of a niche collector unit because at least she was good in expeditions, and then Brieg came along and stole all of her jobs, and now she needs a buff. Like Ball and Cezanne, she's only used in one expedition. Celine, I think, is a must-have unit if you ever want to get into the PvP of this game. In Arena, she's really strong. In Guild Wars, she's really strong. In RTA, she is one of the most useful tools in the toolbox. Early game, she won't do a lot for you. But she's an investment hero, and once you hit mid-game, she's a really, really good pickup. And if you have any designs on getting your Master Skin next season, playing in RTA, things like that, you're going to want to have her. Fire Sirmia is amazing and hot and a redhead, and you get her for free. Charles needs a buff. Charles is basically Ice Shoe, and Ice Shoe hasn't been good for a while. Charlotte needs a buff. She is good early on. Good early on because of her AoE hits. She's good for clearing some content, but once you've kind of gotten past story, there's not a lot you're going to do with Charlotte. Chloe is... I'm going to chill Chloe right out here with Birgitta. She is close to being the worst unit in the game. Shu is used to be really heckin' strong. Shu, where do we put her now? She can still carry in some really early Guild Wars, and late game she's good in the Executioner Carcanus fight. She's a small buff away from being strong. I'm going to leave her up here. She's kind of like on the line between these two fields. I'll leave her at the very end of really strong. Command Model Leica is hard to build and hard to keep alive. I think she's a collector's unit at best. Destina, I think, is a must-have unit early game. Being able to have Destina on your team is a safety net. Bringing all your units back to life after you died feels so good when you're doing crap like Abyss or trying to get through harder story content. And once you get into early RTA, you'll be glad you have her as a reviver unit. She's getting a buff, solid unit. Ida is really strong early game, but she falls off a lot mid game. I'm going to put her at the top of the collector niche unit. She really kind of needs a little bit more something to be in modern damage. Elena is a really heckin' strong unit. You should have one. Elagos. Here's the thing, guys. Though Elagos feels like a must-have unit, people who look at tier lists for advice typically don't have the gear to build an Elagos. People who have the gear to build an Elagos don't need to look at tier lists for advice. I'm going to put him at the front of really hecking strong. If you're playing RTA, he is a monster and one of the better freaking units in the game. Really, really good into Guild Wars and Arena, but he is a late game unit, right? If you've not been playing this game for over a year and a half, you probably don't have what it takes to make a banger Elagos. So I'm going to put him in the really strong unit, and I caution when you pull him, make sure you can build a good Elagos. Elvira is very, very niche, and her niche is killing children. If you know, you know. Ervalin needs a buff. Nobody likes Prince Joffrey from Game of Thrones. Fene is probably one of, if not the most important PvE units in the game, and you pick her up if you can get her. Fenris really needs a buff to be relevant. Flan is... I'm sorry, Flan. I'm really sorry. But you need a buff to be good in this game again. Fumir is strong, but you have to know how to play the game at a pretty high level. She's got a lot of conditions, a lot of tricks, and a lot of requirements. And if you're relatively new, you almost need to take a freaking college course on how to apply Fumir. So she's a very niche unit. She is strong. She's up here for people who are in the know. She's down here for newer players. She's an investment hero. You got to learn how to use her. Haste is one of the better PvE units. You're not going to have any use for him outside of PvE, but you will find metric F tons of use for him in PvE. So good, he's almost up here. I'm not going to put him up here because people will lose their ever-loving shit if I put haste in the must-have group. So I'm going to put him here towards the top of really, really strong. Heals on his S2, defense breaks on his S1 and S3, does shit tons of damage. You will find uses for him in Nightmare Raid at endgame, and early game he will walk you through a lot of the Abyss, help you out with a lot of story content, and whatever new transitory content comes out, like advents or special events, haste is always freaking featured. Hua Young, here's the thing. I would have said Hua needs a buff to be relevant, but I think with the changes to the arena system, Hua is actually quite strong now. I think we're going to start to see Hua Young being used more and more with the 1500 boost to attack and the removal of the the entire reason the whole RGBs do less damage against opposite element was to slow Hua down. So the changes to RTA are a direct buff to RTA Hua. So I think she is actually going to have some niche uses. Ilanov needs a buff to be relevant. Immortal Wukong is very, very niche. Asaria is, I think, a must-have unit, but you get her for free. After April 10th, everybody who started an account January 1st and after should get Asaria and Song of Stars for free. If you do not have Asaria and you started your account before January 1st, you maybe select her because she enables a lot of crazy stuff in Epic 7. So pre-2025 people without Asaria, must-have unit. Post-2025 people, you get her for free. Savvy? Janua is really hecking strong. I would be tempted to put him in a must-have range for RTA, but outside of RTA and Guild Wars, I'm not sure if he's a must-have. Kane needs a buff. He's terrible. Kawerik needs a buff. He's not that good. Kairon needs a buff. He's not that good. Fire Ken is niche. You'll use him in Wyvern 13 one-shots, and that's about it. Kisei needs a buff. She's not that good. Krau is the strongest knight in the game. That's RGB, bar none. Krau's stock is through the freaking roof, even for PvP and for PvE. Having a good support knight who can also nuke and do damage, give you defense buffs, give you an AoE on a soul burn. You're going to find lots of uses for Krau in this game. Lidica is untested. Everybody thinks she's going to be a must-have for RTA, but we've been down that road before. Outside of RTA, maybe Guild Wars, maybe. I'm just going to put her in really strong for right now, but this is something where the best advice is if you get a selector day one, you don't use it on anything until you've seen the impact of the balance patch. Can't you make the same argument for Celine and Janua? God damn it. When he's right, he's right. And he's right. And you know what? He's right. So Janua, because he is so critically important for RTA, we're going to put him in the must-have tier. If you have zero interest in RTA, then you can maybe give this guy a pass. But like Celine, Janua is key to getting a toehold in RTA and getting those master skins. Also really good in a lot of Guild War fights. So if you're brand spanking new, these two heroes you can kind of push off a little bit. They're not going to help you in the general progression of the game other than doing some serious bossing damage. But eventually you're going to be very glad you have them when you start dipping your toes into Guild Wars, into Arena, into RTA. Fire Lilius has some very, very minor niche uses. Lilibet needs a buff. Lua, crazy as it sounds, Lua needs a buff. She's not really usable in any aspect of the game right now. I know you guys see me use Green Ludwig all the time in very abusive and horrible ways. That's me flexing my gear and doing some stupid fun stuff. It's so niche that I can't even call it niche. It's unique. It's a unique usage. For everyone else, Ludwig needs a buff. Lulica is really, really strong. I used to put her in the must-haves, but so many units like Fene have come out and Brieg have come out that her value's gone down. But the thing about Lulica is she does a little bit of everything. She's got a very diverse and complete kit. She's got attack buffs, she's got defense breaks, she's got barriers, she's got damage, she's got wear mage artifacts, she's got AoEs, she's got single targets. A little bit of everything. My favorite description of Lulika is she's the girl that everybody says is hot, but then nobody invites to the dance, right? And that's the truth of it, right? When you're getting ready to go to the dance, there's always somebody more hot out there to take. But if you have her, she is plug and play to solve problems. Just so many good PvE solutions have come out that she's kind of fallen downside, right? She used to be basically girl Haste, right? Haste did all the PvE stuff with fire, and Lulika did all the PvE stuff with ice. And both of them have been kind of replaced with PvE options. Brieg does barriers, Brieg does defense breaks. Brieg stole most of her jobs. If a fire Brieg ever came out, Haste would fall off too. Melissa, a very, very niche unit. Very good, but hard to use. Mort is a must-have unit. Mort is responsible for more phone screens being repaired because people like, they play against Mort, they go, damn it! So if you want to have the ability to really piss off your opponents in PvE, in PvP, right? Arena, Guild War, RTA, Mort is a banger unit. He's easy to build. He can be built several different ways. And he even has some PvE usages. So if you don't have Mort, add him to the list. Good pickup. Mui. Mui should be here. You look at Mui's kit, and it's insane. But like Lulika, she just... Okay, we got Fire Lulika, we got Ice Lulika, and now we got Earth Lulika. Units that look like they'd be really strong in PvE that just aren't usable because there are better options. I think she just needs a buff. She needs a stronger buff. More buffs. Knockwall used to be a must-have for RTA. I'm not even sure I would qualify her as really strong. I'm gonna leave her here because there are situations where I think having a Knockwall in hand is good, but outside of RTA, she doesn't have a lot of uses. Pavel is niche to needs a buff range. I'll put him at the end of niche collector. Para. Goddamn Para. Para's a must-have as an ML Para imprint. I'm kidding. Para's a must-have because of Para's skin. Can we even say Para is really strong anymore? I'm going to put her beside Knockwall. I mean, she's an opener, a fast opener. It's just really hard to use. Here's the thing about Politis. Politis, there used to be multiple ways to build her. You could do a damage Politis, or you could do a interruption Politis, and damage Politis has kind of fallen by the wayside. She's just not tanky enough or strong enough. She's really good at stopping CR manipulation, and that's very important, especially if you don't have Abyssal Euphine, who's just a better answer. If you don't have Abyssal Euphine, her value goes up, but when you're ready to start doing RTA, having an anti-cleave Politis is really, really good. Somebody built tanky with tons of effectiveness and effect resistance will help keep the enemy from doing horrible things to you. She used to be a must-have, but there are just better answers, and she isn't the interrupter she used to be. Rand's right here beside Para. Rand used to be the fastest RTA opener. In fact, he still is the fastest RTA opener, but using Rands in a modern meta is very difficult. All three of these I'm tempted to move down a tier, but I'm going to leave them here for right now because the changes to the frenzy system might breathe a little bit life back into these openers. But for right now, man, I took my Rand gear off and put it on Elegos. Ravi is pretty close to a must-have for brand new players. She is a great way to get into RTA, but once you get to the mid-late game, she's going to fall down to the strong. I'm going to chill her out right here beside Abigail. If you're a brand new player, Ravi is a great unit, one that's nice to pick up from the selector. Not this selector, but the hey, I just started selector. If you started before the 10th, but she falls off a little bit late game, but she will carry you in a lot of up to Masters RTA matches. She will help out a lot in Arena, and she's great for bossing with her self-healing and bruiser nature. When you've gotten to the point where you've got to focus kill a bad guy, she's a really nice unit to have on the team. Ray's just terrible. Rowanna's a must-have unit, guys. In fact, she's probably the most must-have. I don't know if Fene is. She's probably the most she's very important. You want to have Rowanna. She's important for just about everything PvE related. And with Seaside Bologna making a comeback after her buffs, I think you're going to find Rowanna is a really nice counter pick. Schneel is kind of a niche unit. Schneel only has one job, and that's going into DDR. DDR is very prevalent. When DDR is on the board, Schneel's up here. When DDR is not on the board, Schneel's down here, and that makes him the definition of niche. She is specifically to counter one unit. Senya used to be up here with Abigail. Senya Abigail was the best way to get Masters in RTA, but now there are better options. Senya really needs a buff. I says, I know you guys have seen me do some fun things with Says in regular arena. Not so much anymore. That's niche on the level of Ludwig's niche. So I'm going to scooch him right down here beside Ludwig for so ridiculously niche that he's damn near impossible to use. Sharoon is kind of strong, but is RTA only and a little tricky to use. I'm putting her right beside Fumir. You better know what you're doing to build and use a Sharoon, right? Like Fumir, if you know what you're doing, these two can move up a tier, but if you don't know what you're doing, she's going to feel like ass. Sigrid is really, really good for Wyvern, and you get her for free. Teu is the best way to imprint your ML Teu. I'm kidding. There's going to be some Teu lovers who are saying, no, he's really, really, really strong. He is niche, and his niche is he is really, really strong if you're one of the 7 people who really likes playing Teu. And if you are, then you kick ass with them. And if you're not one of those 7 people, then he's kind of niche. Tamarin is the most important PvE Soul Weaver, not named Fene, in the game, and you get her for free. So we'll put her down here in the free units. Tenebria. If you love yoga pants and hot women with pink hair, she is a must-have unit. If you like evil villains who do horrible, horrible things to the main characters, then she is a must-have. If you are building for the meta and you want the most useful thing on your account, she is just kind of strong in the same way that Luluka and Haste are kind of strong. Right? She's got some decent PvE usages, but that's about it. All 3 of these units are on this strong tier because they have really strong PvE uses and not because you're going to use them in any kind of PvP. None of these units make any appearance in RTA or Guild Wars or Arena. These 3 units are all about clearing Abyss, handling story, dealing with, hey, brand new PvE content came out. Now it's time for you to guys go and kill this major boss. Hey, Ancient Inheritance is back and you're going to need tools to do this. New Labyrinth introduced. You're going to find uses for these units, expeditions, things like that. But if you're only picking from this list to build your RTA stuff, you don't look at these 3 units, right? Tywin is actually quite strong after his buff, but nobody uses him because Kral's just a better Ice Knight. Vildred is the only 5-star speed imprint in the game, and because of that, giga frickin' strong. Useful if you want to cleave. If you aren't pulling him for speed imprints, he kind of falls off. I'm going to drop him down into niche, and his niche is you need multiples of him for the speed imprint and to use his cleave support. Violet. Violet is, if I put him in needs a buff, then they're just going to make him 100% evasion, which is bad. But he's not even really niche. Violet needs a buff, guys. I'm sorry. Vivian is a really, really super strong PvE unit, but you get her for free. Down there with Sirmia you go. Euphine, her primary job was cheesing Labyrinth, and you can't do that anymore. And now I think, although she got a buff to basically be Jacko in RTA, you know what, though? Maybe after her RTA buff, she'd be heckin' strong now. I'm going to slide her here beside Green Pavel, right? She's just right on the cusp of needing a buff, but I think she's actually going to be pretty strong in PvE after the buff change, after the changes and after her buffs. Yulha is just niche. Okay, so Yuna does have some niche PvE usages, but you can do connections and get her for free. Zahak has got some minor PvE usages and minor PvP usages, so that's about it. And guys, that's it. There we go. That's my list. Now, in interest of sorting, let's sort this top tier real quick. Okay, done. Now, mind you, the top tier is a little bit dodgy. You got to make sure you are picking to your best interest. 90% PvE, 10% PvP. 90% PvE, 10% PvP. 80% PvP, 20% PvE. Depend if you build her at an insane gear score level, PvP. If you can't, if you're building her to a low gear score level, PvE. Mostly PvP, but does have some PvE usages. Used pretty much predominantly in PvE, but she's getting buffs and that might bring her back to PvP. 99% PvP usages. So be a little bit careful about who you pick, where you're wanting to, what you're wanting to play. Go back and listen to the descriptions of each one. Don't just look at the tier list and pick from left to right. Because some of these units are very hard to build and RTA only. Some of these units are very easy to build and PvE only. Some of these units are kinda has-beens, but could come back at any minute, but require insane gear. Some of these units are really, really good if they're paired with other units, but not so much on their own. Some of these units are solutions to problems, but not initiators. Some of these units are here because the buffs look good on paper, but we haven't really tested it yet. So consider all of these things before you go ham on it and listen to my description of each unit before you choose. But there you go. That's my RGB selector tier list. The limited tier lists for the artifacts and the selectors are in a different video. You can check the description in this video for links to those. Hope this helps you guys out. If you have any questions, ask them in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You guys have a great rest of your week.